Welcome back. In September this year, Fitch Ratings affirmed Nigeria's long-term foreign and local currency issuer default rating at BB- and BB respectively. Now, Fitch emphasized that the affirmation of Nigeria's ratings was based on the fact that the political uncertainty that preceded the 2015 elections had since subsided and power had transitioned peacefully to the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the extended absence, however, of a cabinet has caused delays in implementing economic policy, which has dented credibility at a time of significant challenges posed by lower oil prices and significant uncertainty remains, particularly around the currency. Now, Fitch also pointed out that there's been no progress in rebuilding savings buffers, with excess crude account at $2.2 billion as at mid-September. Looking at the report, how should Nigerians react from a fiscal and monetary point of view? Dr. Boniface Chizia, economic and policy analyst, joins me now to talk to this. So good morning to you, Dr. Chizia.
All right, thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
So, looking at that report, I know you read it, and and you've digested it, and it's something that has caused more than a few heartbreaks for Nigerians, especially as there's been growing talks about readjustment of the currency. How do you think in line with this that Nigerians should react? Let's take a look at it from the monetary point of view, because Fitch Ratings actually advised that there should be a currency adjustment. It's not the first ratings agency that has made that suggestion.
Well, I think that's an issue of currency adjustment. For those who are particularly rating agencies, JP Morgan also did something similar, not too long ago. It was that they have the same mindset, the same attitude, in the sense that they believe that if you challenge, you will have issues with your supply of your currency. That one of the things you needed to do was to devalue your currency. And then the authorities have taken a stand, to say that they believe that the currency as today is appropriately priced. And I would expect that, to a large extent, we should be seen to be giving the authorities on ground, the benefits of the doubt. And like I say, it's not as if the central bank, the managers of the monetary policy today are averse to devaluation. Under this present administration, we've had devaluation of about almost 20% devaluation. So we've had it twice. And so it's not as if they are averse. But then, the thing is that when you devalue, like we've always argued here, that devaluation is meant for export-led growth of your economy.
So now, in light of continuous calls by international organizations or international ratings firms, for instance, for a devaluation or readjustment, or a closer look at those policies, particularly monetary policies, what should the monetary policy authorities now should be doing? Because we haven't really got a fiscal authority just yet, because we don't have the ministers in place. So what should the monetary authorities be doing right now?
I think it's important. I would say that the fiscal authorities, there's no reason why we should have gone on for this long, without having the fiscal policies in place. I think that the issue, I think we have to say this without stopping. I think that there's a need for us, fiscal authorities, to be up and doing. And one expected that when the president did say that September his cabinet was going to be in place, we were not thinking that it meant that in September the list was going to be sent. We were not expecting that by this time we'll still be talking about screening and so on and so forth, with all the controversies that have attended to this. I think that we should be up and doing. I think that the fiscal authorities should accept and come to terms with the fact that monetary policy alone is not sufficient, to drive the process. The monetary authorities, there are issues. If you take physical measures, for instance, something like subsidy, which everybody is saying that that subsidy should be removed. I think that there's some debate around it. The president is on record to have said that he thinks that it's going to affect the poor, the downtrodden, and seriously, I was thinking about it. But the fact remains that subsidy, as it is today, is not sustainable. What you have there as subsidy is bloated, by rent-seeking, corrupt practices, and so on and so forth. So to the extent that we want to keep subsidy, and what we're doing is that we are subsidizing some greedy, some unpatriotic elements, amongst us. And I think that we need to do something about that.
Let me take you back to the currency matter now.
Yeah.
They're talking about an adjustment, and then we've seen oil prices dropping and not rising anytime soon, and nobody knows when it's going to happen. And then we're seeing interest rates being tightened. What is the correlation between calls for a currency adjustment, for instance, and interest rate tightening? Should Nigeria do a currency adjustment without, for instance, easing interest rates?
Well, I think that, like I've said, I've been on record, I've been on this platform, I've said that we need to reflate the economy. So if we need to reflate the economy, that means that we needed to do something about interest rates. I think interest rates in Nigeria are not sustainable. They're not investor friendly. So I've been on record, I've said so, but I also have said that it's not something that you can do overnight. But I was expecting that following the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting, where some issues, I was here and I did say that one of the things we expected was that the monetary policy rate, we want to see a movement in a certain direction. They begin to tell us that yes, okay, we accept, we know that these rates are not sustainable the way they are, but we can't do it overnight in the sense that there are certain things that we have to go with it. But then we begin to say let's reduce it by say 500 basis points. Nothing happened. That didn't happen. So I think that interest rates, we need to do something about that. The adjusting the currency, I think for me, the thing is that, where once you get, it's like a slippery slope. That when you get into, for instance, you won't know where you're going to get off. So once you begin to adjust, some people say you do 10%, you do 5%, but that's not the end of the matter. We've been adjusting our currency since the 80s. And it's a one-way thing. So you adjust, and then you have to adjust again, and so on and so forth. And what has happened in the sense that since we don't have an export, we can't take advantage of the adjustment. We can't take advantage. So what is happening is that we are multiplying the misery index, within the system. So we have a situation whereby I think that we are challenged as a nation, that we need to get the production going within the economy. We need to get capacities that are lying idle, back into production. And for us to begin to do that, and I have said also that we need to deliberately, spend our way through, so begin to put some money into the system, find a way to reduce interest rates. If you adjust the rate of exchange, what effect is that going to have?
Okay,
since we're import dependent.
So if there isn't an adjustment, should the Naira be allowed to float? Should Nigeria allow the Naira to float? And if that happens, what are the benefits and the drawbacks?
Well, I think that if you want to allow the Naira to float, I think one of the issues you have in trying to have the Naira to float is that you don't have the supplies. Supplies just from one source. To a large extent, I think there was a time we tried to do this. If you want to float your currency, then you must have multiple. The central bank should just become just another player, within the system. Now, how do you float the Naira when you just have one limited supply? Occasionally you have oil companies. They come and they sell some dollars in the market and so on and so forth. But the major bulk of the money comes from one source. So how do you float it? So for you to have a floating currency, then you must have multiplicity of suppliers, and then of course you have demands all over the place. But to the extent that you have suppliers from one channel, as we have it today, then how do you begin to float? We've done a very long time. We did manage float in the sense that we kept the Naira value within a bound. We kept it within a bound, say to fluctuate within this band. To that extent, we can do that. But if we want the thing to float, we don't have the structure, we don't have the environment, we don't have the templates around. We would not support that. Because then you float, and then it's one source, and of course what's going to happen is that it's going to go down and down and down and down. But where you have people supplies from multiple sources, and then and so on, not then you can begin to talk about floating. I don't know of any currency within the sub-region that really has been floated. Even the US, even where you have floats, you don't even have any completely currency that's left completely to the market forces as none. Even the American currency, which you, for want of asking, we'll say, look, the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Even the American dollars, they have an eye. They have the watch and see what is happening to it. In as much as they are not challenged as we are, in terms of, what is the rate and then what you do about the rate. That's not their concern. But I'm sure that they won't. They worry if they see that the Chinese currency and so on it's coming stronger, and then it's trying to depreciate their currency. They are trying to gain more market share and so on. Americans are going to worry in terms of the value of their currency. To what extent it's going to affect the productivity in the economy and so on. So I think those are the issues. So when people talk about floating the currency, how do you float the currency given the structures we have on ground, given sort of the configuration we have, whereby, if, like I said before, one source supplies. We have one source, and that's central bank supplying almost all the foreign exchange that's consumed in this environment. So what's floating?
Well, Dr. Chizie, let's take a break and catch our breath and come back, and we're still looking at that report. But Dr. Boniface Chizie still here with me in the studio when I return in just a moment. Stay with us.